Good morning, I'm Kenneth Moten.
And I'm Janae Norman. Here are the top 5 things to know this Friday. Number 1, the U.S. airstrike that killed Iran's top general.
General Qasem Soleimani, considered Iran's second most powerful figure. The Pentagon says Soleimani is responsible for the deaths of hundreds of Americans and was actively planning more attacks.
U.S. missiles hit Soleimani's convoy at Baghdad's airport. Now Iran is warning Americans to expect, quote, harsh retaliation. Number 2, the raging wildfires in Australia.
The worst wildfires to hit the country in decades are expected to intensify. The deadly flames have trapped people in areas that could get wiped out on Saturday. The U.S. Embassy has warned Americans to get out immediately. On to number 3, the life support battle in Texas.
A judge has ruled that an 11-month-old baby who's been hooked up to breathing and feeding tubes since birth can be taken off life support against her family's wishes. The hospital treating Tinsley Lewis says she's in constant pain from her treatment and her condition is terminal.
Tinsley's mother disagrees with the ruling, saying she should be the one deciding what's best for her baby, and she plans to appeal the judge's decision. We head to Illinois for number 4, where the first day of legal marijuana sales took in more than $3 million.
Buyers started lining up as early as 3 a.m. on January 1st, despite frigid temperatures. And that pace is expected to continue through the weekend. Illinois is now the 11th state allowing the use and sale of pot for people 21 and older. And finally, number 5, sales of vinyl records are as strong as they've ever been.
Nielsen Music says nearly 1.25 million were sold in the week before Christmas. That's the most since music sales tracking started nearly 30 years ago. Analysts say vinyl records are expected to outsell CDs this year for the first time since 1986.
I bought more vinyls this year than I did CDs. I did.
Well, if you need some more technology in your life, don't forget the ABC News app for all the trending stories.
Solid.
Good morning. Let's get right to that breaking news from Baghdad, where the Pentagon launched a deadly airstrike killing one of Iran's most powerful generals.
The Pentagon says Qasem Soleimani is responsible for hundreds of U.S. deaths, and he was, quote, actively developing plans to attack American diplomats and service members in the Middle East.
ABC's Ines de la Cartara joins us with the new details this morning. Good morning, Ines.
Good morning, Janae and Kenneth. This represents a major escalation in tensions between the U.S. and Iran. Qasem Soleimani was a senior and popular Iranian commander, and overnight, Iran's Ayatollah is warning the U.S. can expect severe retaliation. Tensions between the U.S. and Iran reaching a boiling point. The Department of Defense confirming in a statement, at the direction of the president, the U.S. military has taken decisive defensive action to protect U.S. personnel abroad by killing Qasem Soleimani. ABC News learning Soleimani was killed by a drone strike conducted by U.S. Joint Special Operations that hit a convoy carrying Soleimani as he was leaving Baghdad's airport.
Mr. Soleimani he is not just a general. He is something almost a demigod within the eyes of the Iranian people. He has been a hero of the Iranian people for a long time.
The Pentagon argues Soleimani was actively developing plans to attack American diplomats and service members throughout the region, and says it was Soleimani who was behind the recent attacks on U.S.-led coalition bases in Iraq and the strike that recently killed an American contractor. The U.S. then retaliating by taking out 25 members of an Iranian-backed militia, a move that kicked off 2 days of chaotic protests outside the American embassy in Baghdad. Defense Secretary Mark Esper with a warning on MSNBC on Thursday.
You know, enough is enough. We have all the capabilities inherent in the United States military to either respond to further attacks or to take preemptive action if additional attacks are being prepared.
The president responding to the attack by tweeting out the image of an American flag, but just days ago insisting he did not want to go to war.
I want to have peace. I like peace.
Reaction from Congress has been swift and polarized. Republicans praising the president's actions, while Democrats warn of war and question whether the president needed congressional approval. Kenneth?
All right, and as you said, this is getting a lot of reaction on both sides of the aisle. What are some of the Democratic presidential candidates saying?
Yeah, so the Democratic candidates have long been critical of the president's knowledge of foreign policy. Former Vice President Joe Biden released a statement saying President Trump just tossed a stick of dynamite into a tinderbox, and he owes the American people an explanation. And Bernie Sanders saying Trump's dangerous escalation brings us closer to another disastrous war in the Middle East that could cost countless lives and trillions more dollars. Tanae and Kenneth.
All right there, Inez. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
And while the U.S. has considered Soleimani a dangerous enemy, Iranians call him a hero and, quote, the international face of resistance.
ABC News Chief Global Affairs Correspondent Martha Raddatz spoke about him overnight on Nightline.
When ISIS was taking over towns in Iraq, Soleimani would often be seen in Iraq, traveling back and forth between Iran and Iraq to help lead the fight, these Iranian-backed militias against ISIS. He was a very strong but very mysterious presence in Iraq. He was not high profile by any means, but I will also say that his presence was felt throughout the war there because he was responsible for the deaths of many Americans. I think it's almost certain Iran will have some sort of response, even given what we've heard from them this evening in tweets, and that the United States in some way will pay for this. I think the important thing here to look at in any kind of Iranian response is whether they take credit for it. Remember with the attacks earlier this year on the Saudi oil fields and the drone attacks, they talked about the drone, but they did not talk about the Saudi oil fields. They did not take responsibility for those attacks. And so I think if Iran has some sort of response to the killing of Soleimani and they take credit for it, they are looking for a larger conflict. If they don't, I think they want to tamp this down.
Our thanks to Martha there in Washington. And in the wake of the strike, we're hearing from police departments here at home, including New York and Los Angeles. The LAPD says it is monitoring the situation, and New York's mayor says the department is discussing steps to protect key locations from any retaliation by Iran.
Moving on to politics, another Democrat has dropped out of the race for the party's presidential nomination.
Former HUD Secretary Julian Castro ended his campaign yesterday. Castro says he's proud of giving a voice to people who are often forgotten. But low poll numbers and limited fundraising forced the only Latino in the race to the sidelines a month before the Iowa caucuses.
I've determined that it simply isn't our time. So today it's with a heavy heart and with profound gratitude that I will suspend my campaign for president.
Meantime, some of the remaining candidates have released their fundraising numbers. Senator Bernie Sanders raised $34.5 million in the last quarter. Mayor Pete Buttigieg took in $24.7 million. Former Vice President Joe Biden had his best quarter with $22.7 million. And Senator Elizabeth Warren is expected to release her numbers soon.
Well, Sanders leading the pack there, but the Vermont senator putting more stock in those individual donations. ABC's Avery Harper is on the trail in Iowa covering the Sanders campaign. Avery.
As Bernie Sanders embarks on his Not Me, Us bus tour through Iowa, his campaign is announcing its biggest fundraising haul yet. They say they raised $34.5 million in the fourth quarter of 2019. That puts him at the top of the pack of his Democratic opponents and just behind President Donald Trump, whose campaign announced that it raised $46 million in the fourth quarter of 2019. Now, at a brief campaign stop in Grinnell, Iowa, Sanders told reporters that the $5 million individual contributions the campaign received is much more important to him than the amount of money that he's raised.
You may have read that we have received in this campaign 5 million campaign contributions from 1.3 million people, which is more campaign contributions from more people at this point in a campaign than any campaign in the history of the United States of America. With your help, I am absolutely convinced that we will win here in Iowa. We'll take that victory to New Hampshire. We'll take that victory to Nevada and South Carolina and California. We will win the Democratic nomination. And together, we will defeat the most dangerous president in American history. Thank you all very much.
Now, Sanders is expected to continue to crisscross the Hawkeye state with more stops through the weekend. Kenneth and Janae.
All right, a big thanks to Avery there on the campaign trail. Meanwhile, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton has a new job. She's the new chancellor of Northern Ireland's Queen's University. Mrs. Clinton was appointed to a 5-year term. The school says the position is largely ceremonial.
Now to those mysterious drones hovering over Colorado and Nebraska at night.
The sightings have rattled residents who bombarded law enforcement with calls. Authorities say they've not been able to determine who's flying them or why. The FAA has now joined the state and local agencies investigating the sightings, and they plan to meet next week about it.
UHaul has a New Year's resolution: no more smokers allowed.
Starting in February, the moving and storage company will no longer hire nicotine users in 21 states. Those are the states where declining to hire nicotine users is legal. The company says it only applies to new hires, not current employees. UHaul has more than 30,000 employees.
Next, check out this avalanche in Utah. It was actually started on purpose for safety reasons. Transportation crews in Little Cottonwood Canyon near Salt Lake City did get it to snow, or did it to get snow off a mountain that overlooks a number of roadways. In Tulsa, Oklahoma, firefighters pulled a big gem out of a drain. That's a 90-pound Great Pyrenees puppy named Ruby. She disappeared New Year's morning and was found 50 feet underground in a drain. Firefighters managed to open up the pipe, and Ruby crawled out apparently okay. And we are glad that Ruby is safe this morning.
Certainly are. Well, coming up, we start rolling down the road to the Oscars this weekend. We're checking out who's in line for this year's biggest honors at the Golden Globe Awards.
But first, the wildfire emergency in Australia. Why things could get even worse after this. Welcome back. Now to those deadly and catastrophic wildfires raging across Australia. More than 12 million acres have been scorched. That's almost twice the size of New Jersey. Tens of thousands have been forced to flee in a mass evacuation. And now many are bracing for things to get even worse. ABC's Maggie Rulli is in Australia with the latest. Maggie, good morning.
Hey, Janae and Kenneth, how's it going? Yeah, we've been here in New South Wales, Australia. It's one of the areas that's been hit hardest by these wildfires. I know you've seen some of the photos and videos coming out, and you kind of get a sense of the scale when you see those things. I mean, it's more than 12 million acres that are being affected by these fires. The numbers are just mind-boggling. I mean, think of 12 million acres. That's about more than 50 New York cities. So you can see it from space now. It has gotten so big. So you hear those numbers, you talk about those numbers, but then to see it in person is also just so stark. I mean, guys, we've been driving over the past 3 days. I mean, we tried to count it up, and it was more than 36 hours we spent in the car driving all over New South Wales here in Australia. And when I tell you, it's just burn scar after burn scar. I mean, the amount of charred trees and neighborhoods like this one that we've come across, it's constant. I mean, a 10-hour stretch of highway, and you just see how vast these wildfires are. We talked to one firefighter that told us just one of the fires, this massive fire where a bunch joined together called the mega fire. You can drive from the top to bottom going 70 miles per hour on a highway, and it takes 2.5 hours. I mean, this is the type of scale we're dealing with. It's hard to almost wrap your head around, and you see how daunting it is for the firefighters here and for the locals. I mean, we spoke with the people that live in this neighborhood, and they told us that, you know, they lost their home. They had to race out of here. The fire was coming in so hot and so fast that they barely got out. Other people just down the block told us they have sort of some active flames in their backyard, and they're keeping them at bay. They've been working to keep them at bay for 2 weeks, getting just a few hours of sleep every night. This has been going on for months. People are exhausted. The firefighters are exhausted, and people are wondering, when is this ever going to end? Fire season still has a few more months left on it, and it's not just the people, it's the environment. We've talked a lot about this as well. You know, 500 million animals, they believe, have died in these wildfires. Lots of their habitats could be gone forever. It's so daunting, the scale and the impact. But we are seeing some good stories, and we just got stopped earlier by a man that's bringing water to people who were affected. We met with conservationists and researchers that are helping to save koalas that have been hurt during these blazes. So there is, you know, positive aspects here as well. The community is really coming together, but right now the fear is this weekend. We're expecting worsening conditions, higher winds, hotter temperatures. These are all major concerns. Firefighters are trying to get out there, putting out hot spots. But again, Janae and Kenneth, it's not over yet, and expected to get even worse into the weekend.
All right, our thanks to Maggie. Now let's take a break and check our notifications. Starting with the great subway seat debate heating up the internet. But of course, this could apply wherever you live or take public transportation. Yep. This week going viral, asking New Yorkers which seat they would choose, 1 through 5 there.
I'm a 1. Other people say they're 4 because they like to be in that little area, that little corner. I don't like to be in any tight space that involves the New York City subway.
And I'm more of a stander unless I'm absolutely exhausted because New York is filthy and you don't know what's on those seats.
And in fact, I will say that the nastiest part on my body after being on the subway is probably this part of my arm.
From hooked on?
From holding on to the rail because I don't want to put my hand on the the pole.
Right.
I was trying to
find a euphemism.
I tried to stay off the pole.
Yeah.
And then, so I always just kind of like hold on like this.
Yeah.
Onto the
And
pole.
I am always, whenever I do ride the subway, if I do sit, I'm just thinking about the disgustingness on the back of my leggings or pants or something.
Yeah.
So like, how do you go home and sit anywhere with that filthy? But that's our question of the day.
It is our question of the day. On mass trans, how do you ride? On the bus, the train, which seat do you
Mass
sit
transit.
in? I know. I guess people say mass trans.
I've never heard that. Like short for transportation.
Also a question
Is
of the day, do you
transit
call it mass trans or mass transit?
or mass transportation?
If you're like cool, say I'm
A,
gonna do
B, or
mass
C.
trans. Let us know. We want to
Fine.
hear from you.
All right. Next, your breakfast debate. When is it appropriate to put ice cubes in your cereal?
Clearly, when you're Gene Simmons, the KISS frontman tweeted out these photos asking his followers, anyone else put ice cubes in their cereal?
Obviously, the answer was overwhelmingly no. I don't know that to be certain, but Simmons showed off the ice cubes floating in his Oreo and Frosted Mini Wheats cereals. Many fans, however, reacted in horror, including Simmons' own son, who responded saying, 30 years. 30 years watching him do this. This is my life.
Simmons reportedly says he does it to keep his milk icy cold. And
Ice cold.
And speaking of the milk, just think about that KISS frontman
Stop it.
licking up that milk with that tongue. Take that into the weekend.
Next, here's a look at what you should do when your cell phone rings during a live television interview.
Facilities, they were put back in place. They've shot down the, sorry about that. They've shot
that
down
is the best
a drone.
reaction to a ring I've seen on the air. Nicely done, General, but go ahead.
They've shot down.
General's cell phone ringer is jamming.
Yeah, it's got a beat to it. That was retired General Wesley Clark on CNN Wednesday. General Clark also confirmed the stagehands caught the phone. Got to have good hands when you're dealing with these folks on air.
And speaking of getting caught on camera, a funny moment happened yesterday, right here at this desk.
I'm calling it the big setup of 2020. I was accused of doing something that I didn't do, and we were both reminded that there are really three of us up here.
Oh, I'm sorry. I got kicked and I thought you poked me. Sorry, I was ready to swat you. I'm
oh my God.
sorry.
The baby was already like, watch this.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. I didn't my hands.
Sorry. I was really ready to be, what are you doing?
I still got hit. And I still got hit. That moment happened during the commercial right here on It's Morning America.
Yeah, we had a good laugh about that. And a lot of people did on social media too. Yeah.
There's a lot going on
Look
at this
Kenneth's
desk.
face.
Look,
see that all he moved at first were his eyes. Like,
right, because I was comfortable. As you see, I've got
I'm sure you were thinking lots of things.
I got my leg, my left hand there. I getting, my old comfortable because I'm an old man.
Mm-hmm. It was a very serious kick that I got, obviously for me to think that Kenneth poked me, which he doesn't do.
Your retaliation hand.
I was ready. Moving on now. Now that the holiday season is behind us, award season is on the horizon. Kicking off this weekend at the Beverly Hills Hotel. The road to the Academy Awards hits its first stop at the Golden Globe Awards as the Hollywood Foreign Press Association hands out their honors.
With all these rich, beautiful celebrities having the time of their lives, let's hope no one spoils that. Yeah.
Ricky Gervais is back to ruin celebrities' nights. Well, hosts the Golden Globes for the 5th time on Sunday night. It's a year when movie stars have taken to TV. Reese Witherspoon and Nicole Kidman nominated against each other for lead actress in a TV series drama. But experts think that will go to Jen Aniston for the morning show. It should be a big night for Netflix, the streaming service leading in nominations in both film and TV categories.
I hope you get an illness and they get hit by a car and die.
Marriage Story staying alive with 6 nods, including Best Picture Drama, more than any other film. But Martin Scorsese's The Irishman is the film to beat in that category.
It's what it is.
The Hollywood Foreign Press not showing any love to that film's lead actor, Robert De Niro, snubbed. And the group also failing to nominate a single woman for Best Director. Greta Gerwig, who helmed the star-studded Little Women.
I'm angry nearly every day of my life.
Some winners we know for sure. Ellen DeGeneres will take the stage on Sunday to claim the Carol Burnett Award, and Tom Hanks will take home the Cecil B. DeMille Award for outstanding contributions to the world of entertainment. Nominees and winners aside, there will certainly be no shortage of star power. The Globes have announced presenters will include Tiffany Haddish, Sofia Vergara, Will Ferrell, and previous Globes host Amy Poehler.
I haven't really been following the controversy over Zero Dark 30, but when it comes to torture, I trust the lady who spent 3 years married to James Cameron.
While Amy, Ricky, and the night's presenters serve up those classic zingers, the wait staff at the Beverly Hilton is serving up a 100% plant-based dinner during this year's ceremony, the first ever totally vegan meal at the Golden Globes.
Ooh,
It started.
Hollywood.
Ooh, and meatless.
I want the meats. For sandwiches. Coming up, we'll tell you what to watch out for in the impeachment saga as the Senate reconvenes today.
Plus the heartwarming video going viral that has some people claiming divine intervention. After this.
Here's what to watch out for today. On Capitol Hill, the Senate reconvenes with GOP Majority Leader Mitch McConnell expected to speak on the floor. The question is, will he shed any light on the future of the Trump impeachment trial?
Minority Leader Chuck Schumer is also likely to speak and argue that key witnesses should testify under oath. Schumer says newly released, unredacted emails confirm that President Trump directly ordered withholding military aid to Ukraine. He calls them a devastating blow to McConnell's plans for a short trial.
One especially notable excerpt is part of an email from a White House budget official to the Pentagon comptroller that says clear direction from POTUS to hold.
Meanwhile, President Trump is scheduled to speak at an event in Miami for the Evangelicals for Trump Coalition launch for his first public event since the holidays.
Finally, from us on this Friday morning, the daughter of the late comedian Robin Williams is getting a lot of feedback after using the popular Instagram filter. Which Disney character are you?
The answer hit really close to home for Zelda Williams. Here's the viral video. The filter determines that Zelda Williams is Disney character. See it there, the genie from Aladdin. Of course, Robin Williams provided the genie's voice for the movie back in 1992. This video has been viewed about 2 million times. Some calling it divine intervention, whatever you call it. It's very, very sweet.
Very special.
Yeah.
Sweet indeed. Well, that is it for us on this Friday. We are headed into the weekend, this first weekend of 2020.
Make it a good one.
And speaking of weekends, it's Janae's birthday tomorrow. Happy birthday, Janae.
Thanks.
She'll be back next
Bye.
week, so will I. Have a good one.